First order of business is to call the meeting to order. It's 9:34. See people that are here. Myself, Chuck, Evan, Randy. Okay, sorry, this is long minutes. Okay, so this meeting is being recorded by the city of Greenfield. If any other people present are recording this meeting, you must notify the board chair at this time. The chair and the Board of Assessors reserves the right to have removed any persons for profanity, threats, or any continued disruption during a meeting. Okay, so have you all taken a look at the previous minutes? Any updates, corrections?
I move to accept them.
I'll second.
All in favor? Aye.
Let it be noted that the chair thought the minutes as recorded were just great.
I'm for.
Thank you.
All right. So now, do I hear a motion to open public comment?
I'll make a motion to open public comment.
I think there was a second to my left. And all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Speaking time is 3 minutes for each person. You need to state your name and address. And Stephanie, if you want to chime in at any time, just feel free to. Okay.
Stephanie Duclos, Chapman Street, Greenfield, Precinct 8. I did have a couple things I wanted to speak to the assessor's office about.
Great.
I did put in a public records request for an abutters list. I don't know if how that gets to you guys, but I just wanted to put that out as an FYI. In all my research of all of the things that have been happening around, I noticed that we might not be capturing as much as we'd like to in our licensing fees. They're still pretty low. I mean, when I applied for a business license back years ago, it was $25 for 4 years for that license. And I really don't think any of the business licenses have increased in quite some time. So I know that we're really struggling to capture some new growth. We might want to look at raising those fees. They're not prohibitive at all. It's like $10 maybe to put a sandwich board sign on the sidewalk. I know that they are, there's a lot of construction going on around town. And if you ever want to know if people are pulling permits, just take a ride around town on a Saturday and see how much work is actually happening under the radar. Especially on my street, on Chapman Street, there's still a house across the street that is doing a lot of construction, as well as several as you go all the way up Chapman Street and Pierce. I know you guys have a tip line. I don't know, as far as how that is still going, progressing. And I know that you guys are talking about that today. I really appreciate the opportunity to talk to you guys. So thank you for letting me speak.
Excuse me, Stephanie.
Yeah.
Since you're on and you're talking about tip line stuff, can we add anything to the tip line for you or verify things that are there that you think we need to know about?
I haven't actually looked at the list. I know that I had.
Well, why don't I'll read things that are on the list and then you can tell me if there's anything that's not there that should be there. Would that be
Can we
okay?
do that can we do that in an email? I don't want to be diming
I
out
think-
people
Okay.
on
This is a public
comment.
meeting, and so
Right.
that's the purpose of the tip line.
Okay,
Right.
we check.
I'm not going to be
Okay.
diming out my neighbors, but we might have a private conversation.
Okay.
All right.
That would be good. In terms of license fees, who's responsible for setting them?
Licensing board.
I would
Licensing board?
imagine you are, Jim.
Yeah, right.
Nope.
No, I don't think it's an assessor's function, but we ought to find out about that. And I
Yeah,
think,
with the clerk of the licensing board, I think.
yeah,
Yeah, I know that, as we're assessing homes and I know we're trying to, look at the total pool of money that we have. I noticed that,
Yeah.
looking up stuff, those fees are incredibly low and, the vendor's fees, and we have a lot of businesses that may or may not be pulling
Yep.
licensing fees
Yep.
for operation. So they won't ever trigger even for an assessment if you don't know they've applied for a license for a business. So I don't know, what
Unless we
the
go out,
conversation
that's what we
happens.
did.
Yeah, I don't know what the oversight of both committees, like, do you guys talk with one another? Like, is there a report that goes out from the licensing committee and says, here's all the new licenses that were applied for this year. Can we double check whether or not we're collecting the correct amount of, or if we're collecting taxes on them at all for their business? So,
the list, I'm sorry, Stephanie. Chuck and I went out and did a business census, which we just recently completed to the best we could. And indeed, your comment about people not pulling licenses is exactly correct. I think the question is, how do we enforce any of this? And that's, I think, beyond our pay grade.
Well, part of it is letting them know that we're here. And so, yeah, that's what the result of that over a long time of what has been going on and what happens if you're not on top of every business in the assessor's office, just from your form of list standpoint, that stuff falls through the cracks, and then they don't even know, they've been here for 10 years and they've never even they don't know what personal property is.
Mm-hmm.
And yet they're in business and they have personal property, and whether it's above our $10,000 exemption amount or not remains to be seen, but it's still up to us to keep track of it. And so when all of a sudden, hey, who's this guy from the town? They're sending me this thing, form of list, what's this,
Yeah.
And then, yeah, by the way, do you have your business certificate? Because, so we could possibly, if we had, sufficient staff, we'd be able to coordinate between us and the clerk's office and say, or even in this project,
Mhm.
we'll be able to do that and say, okay, listen, here's all these businesses, now I've got this new list of businesses because we did the census.
Right.
What, are there any here that you're, is it worth your while to go through and find how many businesses you don't have? Or how many we have that you don't have a certificate for?
Yeah. Where did that, the spreadsheet of businesses come from?
It came from Patriot.
Oh, it came from Patriot.
Right.
And
And that was just a list of all the personal property accounts that we have.
I
It's
see.
not a list of businesses.
Wow.
It really, it should be, or it should be able to, reasonably mirror a list of businesses.
Yes. So one of the things we need to do is to talk to Kathy about getting a business list. So we can cross-check it with
Yeah,
Patriot.
I'm sure that they could come up with it in Patriots. Sorry about that.
Okay.
I just want to go back, in terms of the licensing, so I'm just on the city website and I found the Board of License Commissioners. That what we think, because they do liquor, looks like food,
Yeah.
car, junk, and entertainment licenses. Is that the kind of fee we're talking about?
And they do, flammable materials and type of thing too, so all this stuff. But yeah, I think that's part of it. And so I don't know if they necessarily set their fee. I guess they must set their fees. And if it was brought to their attention that, hey, it's been a long time since you upped the fees or, talk to them about it, and who knows, maybe they just did it. Or maybe it has been a long time and they'll consider it. But it is, another way to possibly, generate a little bit of revenue, a little bit more of revenue. And I mean, for instance, we don't have a fee for butters lists. So we do a butters list, but, in many towns that I've been in, there's been a fee for it, and many they don't charge.
Hmm.
And many there's more of I've been where there's more of a strict process and there needs to be a deposit, and it's coordinated with the planning board to make sure that everyone follows through and does what they're supposed to. And other towns, they're not so worried about it because I guess it hasn't been abused. But, with licensing too, as far as personal property goes, that's another thing that we can do for different businesses. If they have a bill or if they have personal property and we're on top of them and there's a bill and they haven't paid it, well, we can say, well, guess what? You know, you're not getting your liquor license until you pay this bill. That was a recent change in 2017 with the Municipal Modernization Act, and you really kind of couldn't do that before. And a collector in the town that I was in was writing personal property off in February. And I was, you know, I couldn't understand what she was doing, or, you know, I did, but I didn't agree with it because, you know, you're not even giving them a chance. It's just given that you're not, it's like a fake bill or what, you know, what are we here for? You know? And so
Well, but
it depends on what our policy is, and we can do better communication between departments if there are, and in some cases, you know, I don't know if I've ever talked to Lori about it before or not, I might have. But we haven't done any formal coordination to make sure that as in, and you know, her big time of year is like October and November, and that's when all the liquor licenses are coming due. And all of the, you know, food license, common vicular licenses and everything are getting renewed. And so that's the time for her to be checking with us and seeing, you know, that everything is as far as what we can do to make sure things are paid.
That sounds great. I guess I acknowledge that no efforts are free. And so even the coordination between departments, I'm sure will take some resources from every department to do it. So it's just a matter of prioritizing. I would hope that with these kind of things, we have a good case to say, yeah, it's worth it. You know, if we can capture some of these, if, you know, Kathy, you could please send us the list, you know.
I think that's probably the first order of business is to get a list from.
I mean, now that the primary is over, at least.
And just the processing the results of the work that you guys did and getting out the forms of lists, we need to eliminate all of the businesses that are no longer here.
And you have that list now.
And yes, yeah, and so yeah, that's gonna help us and potentially generate some new growth too for fiscal 25.
So with regard to Stephanie's comments?
Yeah.
Have we addressed them?
Well, first of all, let me, I think there's some action items. One is to talk to the clerk to obtain a business list that we can compare with the Patriot list. Then I think we need to be in contact with the licensing board to ask about fees, maybe suggesting a butters list fee.
The butters list fee would be, I think, controlled by or coordinated between, I guess, the planning board and myself, maybe, or really it's the assessor's office that would do that. But if I do that, you know, I'm not going to do that and just tell everyone, hey, I'm the new sheriff in town, and guess what? There's a fee here. And no, I want to make sure everyone's okay with it and set up some type of process for it.
A good point. So then talking to the licensing board to, you know, make sure that they know we're in the loop, at least for personal property. And the other, you know, and see when they're going to, if they have control over the license fee amounts, and if they do, maybe ask them to take a look at it and see what we can do to increase that so that we have some near-term revenue. Okay, well, that was that. Thanks, Stephanie. That was helpful input. Ongoing Board of Assessor business. How are things going in the office?
We're slowly making progress.
Is this for this cell tower? Or-
No, Board of Assessors.
Board of Assessors.
Do you know where that other meeting is?
I'm not sure. Meeting? Well, I'm sorry, what do you look, which?
It's a meeting for a pre-application meeting, the planning, I think.
Planning is in 20 Sanderson Street.
Oh, we're in the wrong one?
Yeah. I don't know. I'm trying to check the calendar for you real quick.
All right, thank you.
Scott?
Yeah, I just a second.
Yeah, it's sort of smack of inspection department. Okay, so going back to where you were, Randy.
Oh, yeah, no.
So, yeah, we were talking about we needed to have a list of businesses that are no longer in business, so we,
Oh, yeah, okay. So yeah, we're gonna eliminate what we can in Patriot and then send out new form of lists to everybody. And then, you know, as they come back, then they'll be added as new accounts.
Yeah.
By RRG.
okay. I think, you know, one thing that I probably should have mentioned in connection with while we're talking about licensing and business lists is what enforcement mechanism is there? Because I know,
Actually, we're talking about a butters list too. That's what I was talking about on different fees.
right,
And so, yeah, I'll coordinate with other departments or the planning board really, because a lot of times it's most of the time for them. And other times with licensing too, so I'll try and talk to Lori,
okay,
just mention it. You know, so I don't know what anyone, you know, thinks or feels, you know, how many butters lists did we have last year? I think there were about 47 of them or something like that. So I mean, what's the fee gonna be before we did a sliding scale according to the number of abutters? And it was anywhere from, you know, $15 to $30 usually, you know, it'd be a little bit more if there were, you know, depending on the concentration of, you know, the area and that type of thing.
Yeah.
But, you know, I'm not sure.
so all
It
we're,
would be a huge financial boon to the town if we started charging a fee.
so all we're really doing is taking the parcels that surround a parcel of interest, and we have to do that on a case-by-case basis and by hand.
Yeah, we had 44 last year, so.
Okay. But I think at the same time, while you're going around talking about fees, could you also talk about enforcement? What mechanisms do we have in place for
Enforcement of what?
enforcement of having a license to operate? You know, of if you have a license and you don't respond to the form of list, you know, it's that sort of.
And so if you don't respond to the form of a list, then we could, you know, really it's up to us to go out and you know, do our own inventory. Or basically, you know, we could put an amount on a bill and they wouldn't be able to contest it because they didn't, you know, send the form of list back. So your goal would be to go out and get a true idea of what they have for personal property, or maybe make an estimate. Well, it's this type of business. I've got 4 others and this is the average bill. And so I'm going to give them a bill for the average bill. And then when they get the bill, and that's going to get their attention. And then hopefully they'll start complying. But I'm thinking that once we do this, we should get the personal property frequently asked questions,
Mhm.
you know, available. I think we're already on the website, but you know,
Yeah, I think we have some.
put them somewhere, or, you know, a little easier to get to. Because we're making this effort, I could talk to Matt about that. You could put some type of little alert or something like that.
Okay.
And so. Yeah, it's all part of the process of trying to clean everything up.
Yeah, really. And there's a lot of cleanup to do. Okay, and our RRG,
Yeah,
and you know, we need to get on top of them and make sure we're doing some oversight and we're getting a report from them, you know, every time we meet prior to it. And
for the board.
well, I mean, I don't care how the oversight happens,
Mhm.
but I'd like to know, I think it would be worthwhile knowing what their activities have been, so we know where they are in the cyclical, for example.
Right, and so that's what I think, that was the first thing I was gonna say, is that I know that they're doing the fiscal, the cyclical. And that I also talked to David to say, you know, can we expect to see some growth out of that? And they are keeping track of that.
Okay,
So he's given an estimate of new growth of about 300,000 in a recent meeting that we had where it was brought up.
Mhm.
And it's probably close to the averages, 3-year average that we had prior to last year.
Yeah.
Last year was a little bit better. But we had residual stuff from fiscal 22 that really wasn't in fiscal 22 that and some of the things that I found, so.
I guess, you know, the issue with RRG is, you know, to make sure we know what they're doing and where they are in terms of project completion. So for example, on the
formal lists,
on the
they
formal
haven't got the
list.
formal list yet, but we're still accumulating them. They'll go to Jenny soon.
Yeah.
Or we didn't send those out yet, did we?
To Jenny?
To Jenny, no, we still have them in-house, because we still have to receive them, right?
Yes.
Yeah, we want to make sure that we're keeping track of everything that came in. So that's what we're gonna do. Need to receive those, get those to Jenny. Those will start getting processed, and then in the meantime, we'll send out all the new ones. Start getting those back
Right.
and you know, capture as many new accounts as we can.
Yeah, and in that regard, you know, we send them 100 and they start working on them. And then we send them another 100. We ought to have some sense of where they are in terms of processing.
So we can ask for some type of update from Jenny,
Exactly.
but I mean. Yeah, there's oversight, and part of that, you know, it has been part of the conversations. We've been having these, you know, these meetings with Carol. And it's sort of a difficult conversation to have, or I was anticipating that it would be, because most of the time, when you're talking about eliminating, you know, the consultant's involvement,
Mhm.
you know, you're taking food away from their family or whatever, you know what I mean, out of their mouth, and well, it's not the way it is for Harold. He has so many, you know, he has 6 other towns he
Yeah.
can get to and take on if he didn't have, you know, or so it's not a big deal, and so. You know, he's asking me, or I brought up some of the things that I found, and he says, oh, you know, we got to have a conversation about it.
Yeah.
So I'm actually preparing to, and even Devin and I have found some recent examples of business name changes, you know, so we were talking about
Mhm. Yeah.
Foster's, and, you know, okay, it's you know, the guy's been dead for 15 years, but Frank Foster is still listed as the owner.
Mhm.
We had another one, it was Goodies, and then now it's some other different corporation now
Mhm.
that is the owner. And so he called me up and asked, and so well, let me look at the formal list. And sure enough, there's the information. So they're going through them so fast, in my opinion, that they're not even looking at that stuff, and it's not getting updated.
Yeah.
And so, you know,
So,
so I'm going to be talking to Harold about it and show him some examples
okay,
and see what comes of that.
yeah. Okay, well, you know, if you don't mind, report back to us. And if you want us at any of the meetings, let us.
Well, part of, you know, those are kind of different meetings that were going on. And I
Oh,
told you guys
I
about the last one. I was
No, I
hoping that
understand.
maybe you would show up to, you know, to see what was going on. But,
Sorry, didn't.
part of my reply has been to you about, you know, RRG. I think that what is more important than overseeing everything that they're doing is being prepared to move on from them. So, you know, I'm not saying move on, and I like Harold, and to a certain extent, we're gonna have to continue our relationship with RRG, and I think it's a good idea
Mhm.
because of some of the things that he brings to the table, but exactly how much that's gonna cost us and what we want to do ourselves and make sure it's getting done right, because this is part of my example, you know, let's, you know, get on the consultant. What are they doing? Okay, we went and did and saw. You know, we see what happened, and they've been in charge, and, you know, that's what I was saying. Consultant's gonna do a certain amount, and it's gonna put you by, and you're okay. But, you know, are we okay? Look at what we just found.
Yeah.
You know, and it's really never gonna be up to the consultant to take care of things to the standard, you know, they're not gonna keep things to the same standard that, you know, I'm hearing from you guys.
Mhm.
And I hear from the public and just my own standards are that, no, it needs to be done a little bit better than what's happening.
Yeah,
Have you heard anything with regard to this shifting of resource in the office from Dee or Ginny or anyone else in the
I
administration?
did talk to Jen, who said that she's gonna approve my budget as it is. And so we're gonna get funds for someone else and be able to add someone.
That's fantastic.
Then later.
and that'll come in June.
Yeah, because,
Well, I mean, whenever we
yeah,
hire.
yeah, you know, it's all, you know, you gotta start looking even, you know, prior, because,
Mhm.
you know, just as soon as we can get things going, the better.
So that's nominally an assistant assessor?
Yeah, assistant assessor, data collector, or clerk. And so we need to, you know, look to a certain extent, but to get the best quality person that we can, you know, and if we can get someone that's more qualified, that's great, but if, you know, we can only wait so long, in my opinion, and then let's start training our new person and, you know, bring them along. If there's not staff out there, we're going to create our own staff.
Right.
Right on.
No,
So,
we don't have an expert in personal property, but if we took it over and started entering the personal property forms of list ourselves, then we'd be developing our own expertise. And that's really what, you know, we can, and Harold mentioned in a meeting that most places, and I'm sure because I sent you that spreadsheet of the department head survey from a few years back.
Yeah.
And it had all the information about salaries and what was farmed out. And if you look at that, most personal property is farmed out in most places.
mhm. This was the MAAO.
Right.
Study.
And
So that's it?
yeah, I sent it to both of you.
Okay.
Which one was that
It
one?
was like, I think it was called the MAAO Department Head Survey.
Oh, yeah,
And it had all the different, well, not everyone participated, but many did. And it told what the staff was and what the
Yeah.
salary was of the chief assessor. And whether they got a stipend for having their MAA, whether they got reimbursed for mileage. There was a lot of good information. And it kind of told you, you know, what is put to an outside vendor and what is handled in-house.
Okay.
And, you know, so that was one of Harold's points in a recent meeting is that most people do it. And that there's not a lot of people that have the expertise. And so he has Jenny, and she's, you know, apparently got that, and there's not a lot of people that do. But you can develop it on your own or figure it out, you know what I mean? And yes, it'd be great if there was some, you know, but and so again, there's another thing I asked at the meeting. Well, I need a detailed list. We're paying you X amount of dollars for this fiscal year. How much of it is the cyclical review? How much is personal property? How much of it is David's time in the office?
Yeah.
You know, I need to know something more because, yeah, I want to continue this relationship with RRG, but it's almost like, you know, he's teaching me how to do the valuation. So part of that is that he guarantees it too. And so they're working the abatements and doing that stuff. Well, I can do that too. And I did part of it last year. I'm doing some of it this year. But it's nice to have an organization like that when you have something larger, like one of the abatements that we're going to be talking about later on for a larger commercial property where we did an increase in value. And it looks like we might be standing firm on that value, but we're going to need to defend it. And, you know, we might get taken to the ATB. It might go, you know, it might go a little further. And if we do, it's great to have someone besides just me, although I do have the expertise. I've been there before, but I don't have the same clout that RRG has, that Harold has behind him. And so we'll have to figure out exactly, you know, how much we're going to pay him for how much he's going to do for us. You know, it's almost like to a certain extent, I'm thinking we want to have him on a retainer.
It's like a lawyer.
You know what I mean? Almost
Consultant.
the expertise on some of these different things, and especially some of the stuff that he's talked about with economic development, his plans for economic development. You know, this I kept bringing it up, and you know, when we were over at the Zahn Center for the classification hearing, I started talking about it because this is just, you know, crazy benefit that our relationship with Harold is granting the city of Greenfield, you know, because of his insight, and he's kind of willing to do it almost on his own without even paying him for it. And, you know, that's why I'm saying kind of got to figure out where we're going to land there. You know, I think that we're paying way too much money and that we could do it ourselves or a lot of the stuff ourselves for less. But at the same time, you know, it's good to have that and resources that they have available. And even not just, Harold, but all the other people that he's got, you know, David
Yeah, sure.
and Marina, Linda.
Well, I agree with you. If you can get information from him about how he's allocating his time
And so I'm going to be,
and then let us know.
yeah, and he's, yeah, so I have to have a conversation with him about more of everything that's included in the contract and what's not and kind of where we're going to go.
Yeah.
But, you know, we started that conversation and it's, you know, took an unexpected turn that it's not an adversarial situation, which I really anticipated in my past experience. That's kind of what I run into almost every time.
With RRG in particular?
No, not with RRG. RRG is a breath of fresh air compared to the other consultants that I've worked with that are very territorial.
Yeah, understood. Okay, well, that's great. And let's see where they are. Let us
Yeah,
know.
so I'm gonna be having that further conversation with Harold about personal property and the different things that I am seeing and have found since I've been here.
Okay,
And about how that's, where does their responsibility begin and end?
yeah,
Because I still think they're only gonna go up to a certain point. It's gonna be us to get the rest of the job done. If we want it done the way it, in my opinion, it should be to like a higher standard.
do you think you'll have that, you'll be able to produce that by our next meeting?
I don't know, but I
Well,
say within a month, maybe
Okay.
not this next meeting, but the one after that, hopefully
Right.
yeah. Which I definitely want to get that going and I'm sure there's going to be some follow-up after that too, so I'll do my best to try and get it done ASAP.
Okay, well, that would be great. And we've talked about staffing and budget, board help with administration and research. That's just an ongoing thing.
We should give the update. So if you're gonna, I don't know if you're gonna toot your own horn, but
Which you'd be happy to.
you should. I mean, it's not just the way that you been collating and filtering and sorting and cleaning those business lists.
Look, I don't have a life, so you don't need to.
But yeah, so, and we talked about how that's being used. So the other thing is, the guy who was here, watch our last meeting, Bob Williford.
Yes.
So he's been really helpful. He's been sending me all kinds of ideas and stuff. And,
He's a good watchdog.
yeah,
I've dealt with him in the past and he's brought things to my attention. And
yeah.
it's like, okay, and then it fixed it, or I told him why, it was the way it was or whatever.
He's also kind of helping in a process standpoint. So, Chair, this topic of the rental registry,
Right.
should I give that update later on? When we get to the different section discussion as needed?
Yeah, maybe we ought to.
Because
do that.
just because Bob gave us something on that.
Yeah, which was very helpful. What is why is Bob doing this? I mean, is he on a commission or
I
committee
think
or?
maybe he has been in the past.
So yeah, he might have done some stuff in the past, but my impression was he was just concerned citizen. And he's kind of looking at all, not just the assessor's office, but a lot of different goals.
Yeah, from the interactions I've had in the emails with him, he seems to have had a lot of involvement in various boards and various things in the city for quite some time.
Yeah, what I'm thinking about is can we put him to use?
All right.
Oh, we are putting him to use.
Yeah.
He sends me email like every day. I only share some of them with you.
Oh, okay. All right, that's great.
It's fully being put to use.
Oh, that's great. Okay. Let's see. One of the things that we talked about was having preliminary discussions with people that call into the office so that you spend more time in addressing their issue than listening to them vent. How can?
For like abatements?
Well, not just that, like, you mean like the folks I saw down at the senior center?
Yeah. I mean, people like that, or, I mean, I remember being in the office one day and you were spending a lot of,
It was in January.
yeah.
And so, yeah, I was just talking to the next taxpayer in line.
So if we can help in that regard.
We definitely can. The couple of people I saw and, so my next appointment is next week.
Mhm.
I'll be seeing a couple more people. That process seems to work extremely well. Both of them, just by me going through their property card, talking about the rate setting process. Talking a little bit about the budget's effect on the rate setting, right?
Mhm.
That was really what they needed. And then a little discussion sometimes about some of the exemption opportunities, senior work off stuff. But mainly that was what they needed. And so I felt very comfortable taking them on. And I don't see why you or I, or both of us, couldn't do the same thing as I'm doing at the senior center.
Mhm.
But maybe we could do it here, like by appointment, or even do it somewhere else. So people could like sign up. And so they might come to the assessor's office. You might not be there or something, or you might be busy with something. There'll be appointment calendar. They could sign up and Jim will talk to them on Tuesday or whatever.
Mhm.
Well, the other thing is if they leave a message.
We can get back to
Yeah,
them.
we just get back to them.
Yeah, because a lot of it is really, it's spur of the moment. And
Yeah.
someone, they're here paying the tax bill and they just happen to ask a question. So yeah, it would be great. And you're right. And it's great to hear that because that's a lot of what I'm doing is just making
Yeah.
people feel like they've been heard.
You don't need to
Just
be doing that.
explaining a few different things.
Yeah.
And
We will kick them to you if there's an actual, like a question where like, I don't know how it got valued that way or
yeah,
why.
yeah, if it's more
something like
complicated,
that.
which would be fine. But like I said, it's the calls that come in
Oh, yeah.
during the day. And so I kind of, feel more obligated to just kind of handle it right then and there. Although when we do have these busy times, like what we just went through in
Yeah.
January, if we have to go through that again.
You could say,
Or even, how could we proactively approach this? Hey, we're approaching abatement season. If you have a question, yeah, so that they don't have to, it's not just, because right now there's nothing in place. And so they just come to the assessor's office and I'm the one that's there. But if we had something in December, we started saying, hey, we're coming up to this thing, or your value is going to be here. If you have a question of your value, make an appointment with the assessor's office. And then, okay, then we've got the appointments in place and it's not all on me because they just came in or the
we
phone.
can
rang.
just volunteer some office hours here. And you could, if someone calls in while you're busy with something, and you feel it's okay, like they're not urgent, you could just let them know that, one of the board will call them back.
Yeah. Yeah, and so I basically, because I haven't felt like I had any other choice, I just handle them all on my own. But yeah, that's something that we can do.
Yeah,
And,
and not only just call them back, but I found it very pleasurable to meet in person.
Mhm.
The senior center has a nice office, but I imagine we could work something out here.
And I think that's important too, and to let the people know that, yeah, I'm a human being and I'm here and I'm paying taxes just like you are.
Yeah.
And, I'm down the street,
Right.
And so,
It just makes the communication more effective.
With respect to the senior center, are you on their monthly calendar?
Yeah,
Okay, I didn't notice that.
yeah. Right now, they're only letting me do it for 1 hour a month.
Okay,
So it's the fourth Tuesday.
yeah, but it doesn't matter as long as it's in the
Well,
newsletter.
if they get more appointments, then they're going to be willing to maybe let me do it twice a month or,
But I'm just,
oh, and it'll be in their newsletter, their next newsletter. It'll talk about it.
well, and as the year goes on, there's gonna be different things that we're gonna be getting questions about. So we're gonna come up to exemptions soon. And so then that will be the concentration and
Yeah.
things that will come in for me, or maybe not as many. And of course, Devin's right up to speed with that.
Anyways, it's been very pleasurable. So can we do that here too?
Yeah, we can do that, with anything. Well, I'm trying to think of what are the other things. I guess it's really the tax bill. And exemptions and maybe chapter land.
Yeah, anything that we would know from the
These
101.
Things are, well, what else are we sending out? The form of lists and INEs, So that's when we're catching the public eye, when we're sending stuff out to different
But
appropriate parties.
maybe we could start off, the next call that you get, that you're busy and you want to, just tell them the board member will call them back and then shoot it to us and we'll call them back and we'll set up the appointment and we'll go meet them.
Yeah, okay. I think that we're past most of them. But that's recently I've been having people, not this week, but last week, come in and I'm going, it's just like it was January again, and they're finally getting their chance to ask a few questions. So I bring them in and kind of show them my breakdown and so on and so forth.
I move that the board provide permission for Randy to be able to send callers to us as you see fit.
Yeah, I'll second.
all in favor?
Yeah, and we can incorporate it right into like part of our calendar that we're working on. Or put that in, is that, okay, this is when we're gonna start our awareness campaign. Right, and it's like the month before exemptions and it's a 2-month thing. Or actually, you could do it, with exemptions, it's, for most of the year, but that's when when the applications are going out. And I guess we're really trying to do awareness all year, but as these things are coming up and it's that time of year, then it should be, okay, this is our next awareness thing, and put our new blurb on the website or whatever it is about, hey, this is what's going on.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. Just a moment. Stephanie, when Randy hits the table, does that How is that coming across?
It doesn't bother me. It doesn't come off as aggressive or any of that. If,
Oh,
I don't know what you're
okay.
asking.
Yeah, but it doesn't interfere with your ability to hear what's going on?
No, I can hear everyone clearly.
Great, okay.
Thank you.
You don't need to change your habits.
All right, so in terms of board help, that's something new that we can help with?
Yeah, we could try working that out, yeah. So I'll,
Okay,
as I'm talking to people, I'll figure out, or, you know, what I can pass along, or, you know, start thinking about it, and we'll develop it. In the process.
I'm not as familiar with the calendar, maybe as you guys are.
yeah, I was gonna ask,
Yeah.
you know, it almost sounds like we go through seasons.
Yeah, exactly.
And I'd
Yeah.
like to know what the
What season
seasons
is.
are.
You're exactly right, and that's what the calendar is, really. It's what season is it? It's a vacant season right now.
Yeah, can we,
We're gonna get into exemption season soon.
if we think about a calendar in terms of the seasons,
Okay.
I think that would make it easier to say, well, you know, this is abatement season and it runs from that, you know.
Is that part of our mythical calendar timeline?
Yeah,
In January.
but I think, you know,
That's the
thinking in
executive
terms,
summary version.
yeah, I think in terms of, thinking of it in terms of seasons gets us out
Excise
of.
season, you know, it's excise season too. So have you guys gotten any questions about that? And you understand how that all works? Excise is a 12-month bill that you get at the beginning of the year. But if you do any transaction or some alteration to your registration, you're eligible for an abatement. And there's two things that we need to know: what happened to the plate and what happened to the vehicle. Right? So that's the basic of it. It's $25 per $1,000 worth of value. It goes out the manufacturer's suggested retail price. It depreciates for 5 years. It goes 90, 60, 40, 25, 10. It'll never go below 10%. So if your car is over 5 years old, you look at the valuation, you multiply by 10, and that should be approximately what it was new.
I couldn't take notes that fast, I'm sorry.
That stuff was in the 101 on the
Oh,
chapter.
Yeah. But I don't know what questions we're gonna get in what season.
Yeah.
And a lot of it is just complaining.
Yeah, so somehow, I can't remember where I heard this, but I think someone was talking to me about how they valued his car.
Yes.
And I didn't think that was something our office, I didn't think we valued the
Done by the
car.
registry.
That the DMV or the RMV values the car.
They do.
So
And
that's what I told them.
So that does come up sometimes. It goes 90, 60, 40, 25, 10. It never goes below 10%.
Yeah.
But how long you keep that car? You know, is it worth, you know, so, and that's what I think.
And coming from the-
It's like, you know, I'm lucky if I get $500 for this thing.
Yeah.
And, you know, I have to pay on this, you know, and
Talk
so,
to your state rep.
and that's exactly, so it really
Right.
kinda- in some cases, I agree. Or, you know, we've had, you know, even this year, we've had someone grumbling about the value and how it doesn't make sense because this one vehicle, you know, this nicer vehicle versus this lesser vehicle and, you know, the what's paid is, you know.
But that's something we could save you because we can tell them that.
Yeah,
Well, but I think where it starts is let's nail down what the seasons are roughly when they start, but definitely when they end. So, you know, we can draw bars across a calendar.
right.
And then we can figure out where to plug us in. Let's see. I think we ought to move on to the business of the Board of Assessors excise weeks. Where are we?
We've got
Have
some,
some.
we do, these are our abatements that we did from March 6th to March 19th. We'll have you sign on the second page.
We've got
We've got a
3
couple
years
different
involved.
years.
There's some from 22,
Yeah.
some from 23, but the majority are from 24.
Got it. And the total is $4,272. What is the difference between the 34 and the 40 abatements? Oh, 34 are the new ones, and then the 6 are the old ones. Okay, got it. So that's 4272. Okay. Today's the 19th. Okay,
Correct.
we have anything else?
Yes, not for excise weeks, but
Okay. All right, we got,
okay, we've got omitted and revised bills. Oh, hang on there. We do have one more excise thing. We've got the second commitment went out. So I have to have you guys sign off on that. So that's, we committed the second round of bills
Okay.
for motor vehicle excise. And that's on, there's
More
two,
bills?
2 pages to sign on that.
Yep.
Good.
great, thanks.
Just FYI, my legal name is Charles.
Okay, I'll do Charles. We'll make that change.
I do not prefer it. Please don't call me that.
Okay, but on paper.
Okay, Charles.
Okay.
Okay,
Great.
what else we got?
We've got some omitted bills to sign off on, and then we missed the signature from we missed some signatures from last meeting, so I'm just gonna have you guys sign off on that. So here's the one, the more recent one. This is for an omitted personal property bill for Box Modular.
Great.
And that's all to the good, huh?
Yeah. We're sorry we didn't send you this bill. Here it is.
Oh, yeah, we need both. Oh. Yes,
That needs to go.
yes, it does. That's for the commitment.
This third page, open process, still has Joe listed as
Ah,
chairman.
that's, you don't have to sign off on that
You
anymore.
have to
That's,
sign off.
yeah,
Oh, yeah, because one of them was for the 23 bill.
Yeah.
these are templates, not.
That was missed.
Right on.
You know? These are the revised bills that we missed from the last warrant.
And what's in that big box?
These are abatements. We've got quite a few.
Okay.
The recommendations are attached to your meeting minutes.
Right.
Okay.
We do have a chapter land application as well after this. Yes, we need this. From this around. So
This
this here, maybe I'll mark these for you.
is
next
the
time.
amount that we should be getting based on their personal property.
For this, yes,
100 and some odd thousand.
because this was the adjustments that we did.
Yes. Yeah, because we calculated the 1965 tax rate instead of 2039. So the difference, we had to come into difference.
Oh, yeah, 1965, I was like a year,
Oh, yeah.
and 2039. Okay. How do, you know, so these guys are gonna get a $116,000 bill that they didn't expect, right?
No, everyone got a little bit, so it was some bills was an extra $12. So it was an extra 700, depending on the size of the bill.
Yeah,
But it was just like another,
but that one is, did I misread it? I thought it was 100 and some odd thousand.
Right, but that was the total of all of them together,
Oh,
not the individual. It was a total of all the investments on 171 bills.
okay. Cute. And this is the same type of thing. Yeah.
And we did receive a late chapter land application. You wanna explain to them?
Yeah, it's one that's been in for a long time, and so it's one where we'll basically just accept it even though it's late. rather have the information and have it accurate, and sometimes stuff happens, you know, I don't know. Actually, I think it still might even be within the acceptable guidelines, because when there's an adjustment to value, it's X amount of days after the first actual tax bill, so we're still within that 90 days if it was 90 days, so. Yeah, we're more,
So the net is that we didn't have time to process it in.
well, they didn't submit it, and so we could have followed up on them, and ultimately what we should be doing is anyone that hasn't sent it back, we're gonna take it out of chapter. In a case like this, you'd want to call them up and say, hey, can you get it to us? Yeah, get it in.
Yeah.
Because it's, in chapter, it's been in chapter all, for as long as you can remember, and that's what it's gonna be going forward. And so if we did decide to tax them and they appealed and we said no, and then they appealed again and went to ATV, they'd win.
So how many parcels are in chapter land?
I don't know
I
exactly.
can figure it out.
Want me to do a sort on
I have a.
It's a LUC.
That information.
Would it be by land use code
Yes,
with that map?
that's part of it. It has to do with the land use code. I have a chapter master list.
Right.
What's the address in that one, just for fun again?
This one, this is on North County Road in Lyon.
There's two. Well, I think there's three
We have
parts.
192 parcels in chapter.
That's quite a few.
And that's 61 and 61A.
And 61B, 61, 61A, 61B, yeah.
That's funny, Access GIS doesn't find it, probably because it's in Leiden, but we cover it.
Well,
The parcel is R21-1.
R21-1.
yeah, it's probably on the border. Part in one and part in the other.
Hello there.
Who is it? Got it.
Real quick, that's the board. That one right there on the left. Put the one on the right. I have to find which one's gonna be used, you made a good point. It's probably gonna be the darker one. Okay. We go in here, it's full of the.
Yeah, I found it by the parcel. Yeah, it's huge. That is a huge piece of land.
It's like 232.
And
Yeah.
we're granting these two.
Wow, it's like right in the middle of precinct, what is that, 1? Yeah. Oh, it's really big, no roads to it. That's crazy. I didn't even know that was up there.
They're dairy.
According to this, they're growing corn and hay for the cows to eat, I guess.
Yes. Feed the cows.
Yeah, sounds like chapter land to me.
And we are at 160 North County Road. Both of these look like they're owned by the same people.
Mhm.
They're admitted, okay. So. Right. So that takes care of this stuff. And now we're on to, let's see, I think where are we in the agenda? Well, we've got discussions as needed.
Yeah, I got some things I want to
Okay,
throw on there.
okay,
So the main one is on new growth.
yeah.
So I've asked about this before, but I've been kind of poking more. This is about Eversource. And the idea, this is about finding apartments. So I put in a mail to DPW. Because I realized we could do this if we just had a list of meters, what addresses they're at. We don't need owner information. We don't actually even need, I mean, there should be a unique identifier for each meter, right? We don't need any information about the account. All we need from Eversource is a list of meters and where they are. And I can't imagine that they don't give that to DPW for utility purposes.
I don't know, it's worth finding it.
Yeah, so that's, I sent an email a couple of days ago. We'll see if I hear back, but just to the DPW office,
Mark?
well, just the DPW office.
I have some contacts, you know, personal property wise at Eversource anyway. And
If you could ask, that would be great.
they might be able to point us in the right direction of where to get that, or tell us, you know, oh, absolutely, you can't do that because of this law or
This law
whatever.
or that law.
Or, you know, who
Yeah.
knows? But at least we could, you know, it's a place to start, I guess, is why I was
Because
saying no.
If I just had a list of just some unique meter number and just the address, then the simplest things, you just count how many are at the same address. And then we could compare that to, we've already done these, merges. Anyway, so that's that. I want to let you guys know I'm still, and if you get a chance, if you could, send me anything on that.
You know, one person in particular there that I know that I've talked to a couple times, and usually we're coordinating, getting the formal list information.
Yeah,
But I could ask her, hey, you know.
yeah, just send her an email or
What
something.
is thinking about, or has anyone, you know, ever hear anything like this before, or, you know, can you point me in the right direction?
That would be great, because, yeah, it'd be great to track down these apartments, right? So that's on that one. Then speaking of that, I've been working even more with Susan on this rental registry. So I want to share a slide that I shared, if I haven't already, correct me if I've already shared this with you guys. But I'll share it here. But I shared it with the Housing Greenfield meeting.
Oh, wait, Stephanie, you have your hand up?
Yes, I just had a thought. And public comment hadn't been closed yet, so
That's
I
fine.
figure you're not in violation, so I
Yeah.
can interject. Um, when you guys are looking at the new growth, are you going to say the zoning boards of appeals to see who's applied for new housing projects? Because at one of the last meetings I had
Wait,
gone
hang on,
to,
Stephanie, excuse me.
yes,
I thought for some kinds of housing, you don't have to go to ZBA. You can just pull a permit for a new house.
Yeah, and so really.
well,
that's
this
what
is
we're-
a complex that's going up on off of Barton Road for in a significant amount of senior housing or ADA compliant housing.
Are you saying that it's better if we get that from ZBA rather than us getting it from our permit feed from the building inspection department?
Well, I don't know how the
she
process
doesn't
works with the
know.
permitting, whether or not they are closing them out and then that triggers a list, or whether or not just the application. But I
That's a good
know that
question.
when I'm attending all the zoning meetings and the planning board meetings, I see a lot of the site approvals and the applications that are coming in for various, not just single family houses, because there are those as well. But if you're looking to capture some of the new growth that may not be being triggered by another
Yeah.
agency within the city, that the zoning board of appeals is good insight to know who's coming in with big projects and with multi housing development units, not just a single family, but if you're putting a
So-
big complex on Barton Road or off of Barton Road and you have to apply for certain variances, maybe you
Yeah.
guys don't get it for a couple years, that hey,
Yeah.
we've got like 30 units up there.
Process wise, do we want to look at their agendas, at their minutes, or what's the most efficient way to do that? And they don't get a million projects every day.
Well, we get tipped off, Stephanie, just so you know, by the building permit process. So any improvements or any of, especially a project like you're talking about, there's gonna be permits involved. And so that's how we're gonna find out. But as far as forecasting new growth, she has a point, and this is something that I do, or we should be doing, is talk to Eric. Eric is the planner.
Yeah,
The planner knows because they're coming to him and saying, hey, this is what we're proposing to do. So when it's what's coming down the pipeline, Eric knows because they're already talking to him about it, because they're trying to put things in place so they can start it in the future. And so that is something, Stephanie, just so you know that, yeah, I'm in contact with Eric. And maybe not as much as I could have recently, but when it comes to looking at new growth and especially in the future, that's one of the things that I am doing is I'm coordinating with him. And when there's different things that happen at ZBA, for instance, and there's some new ruling or a zoning change on a lot that might have some value significance to it, I'm made aware of those too. They send all that information to me.
They send a report?
Yeah, or they'll send
Email or something.
I'll get an actual piece of paper and it'll have a raised stamp thing on it of, and a plan attached if there was a plan involved.
Okay.
And so,
Okay.
yeah, there's pretty good communication here in Greenfield with stuff like that.
But that was a great idea, and keep them coming. You can put your hand down now if you
Well, I
want.
attend all these meetings, so I can tell you what's going on at them. So, all right. Thank you again for letting me interject.
Okay,
Oh,
no
sure.
problem. Okay,
All right,
So-
let's make a motion. We close public comment. No, just kidding.
Could you guys let me share somehow?
yeah, sure.
Oh,
I'm not allowed.
Share content. Click share.
Yeah, no, you have to let
you're
me
the
share.
chair, you have to, and so I think you have to go into the settings in the top corner.
Okay. There we go. Settings, advanced. Let's see. Set NVI. Yes.
Last time you guys made me the host, I'd rather you just,
Yeah, hold on a minute,
Let me share.
let me see under more. No, that doesn't do it. Jeez. What does do it? Jeez, I can't find, oh, well, let me see, the participants. Invite more, hold on a minute, lock. Enable,
hey, Matt.
right, how do we?
How do you make it so attendees can
Here.
And could we just make that the default for these meetings?
Yeah, if you just go to security, allow participants to share screen,
Got it.
and then you should be able to share screen
No,
now.
thank you.
Okay.
Great.
It's in the manual.
Like,
Yeah, this is, I missed it because you
I
didn't
didn't
have
even
a
know
big
there was a-
RTFM.
yeah.
I'll wait till it's sharing before I leave.
Yeah,
All right,
there we go.
perfect.
Fantastic.
Thank you,
All right,
Matt.
thanks.
No
All right.
problem, anytime.
Sorry, do we still need to sign this one?
Yeah,
Later. Okay.
you can.
This is something that I put together. So there's been this, you guys are familiar with Housing Greenfield, which is a grassroots, just a group of people that meet. But it's been around for a long time and it's run by Susan Morgaftic. Susan was a big part of Ginny's campaign. And although she's a retiree volunteer like us, she meets with Ginny often and is I don't know what you call it, like not technically an administration employee, but a part of the policy making of the administration. There's various people in these grassroots committees who do that.
She did a lot of work on the awareness campaign that we did for seniors.
Yeah.
And with, I think she has to do with the housing authority.
Yeah, well, she
Yeah.
runs the Housing Greenfield group.
Yeah, okay, and so that was her, yeah, she was great.
She's, yeah, and she, at her meetings, a lot of these housing authority people come. It's actually one of the good things about it because it's a forum where people from different agencies that are not organizationally connected with each other
Mhm.
can actually meet and share information, like the Franklin County Housing versus the Greenfield, no, not FERCog, the Franklin County, the housing, was it FRA or something, the Housing Authority? There's a Franklin County Housing Authority and a Greenfield Housing Authority, and never the two shall talk. But they can in Susan's meeting. Anyway, so because of requests, she created a subcommittee, which we're calling the Rental Registration Exploratory Subcommittee, which is really just Susan, Jesus, Peg Hall, myself, and occasionally one or two other people. And we talked about a lot of things and took a bunch of notes, and I tried to summarize them here, share back to that group for subsequent maybe sharing further. This is not a proposal. It's just a outlining of the issue. There's a lot of talk, you hear all this talk about what is rental registration, and people say it's where a health department makes sure to inspect every apartment. But that's not what it is. That's an outcome or a factor, one way of using it. It's simply just a process whereby the city is actually aware of rental units in town. And there's a lot of reasons why you would want that. Mainly these inspection things like health, building, and fire safety, but also like for first responder access. So they need to know where doors are, which door for which unit, how many people live there.
Yeah, that's a whole big coordination thing whenever we're doing a new property or,
Yeah.
a new address, a street address.
Yeah.
Coordinate with them so that they know, where to respond to.
Yeah, and they have a whole system. They have this whole E911 or whatever. They have this whole system that they maintain that and they survey people. It's voluntary. You can put in that information. And then, of course, the other thing, knowing that their rental unit supports us and knowing that there's been a change of use, so there's different units.
Enables city economic interventions such as tax exemptions.
Yeah, so if city council, for example, wanted to make a political policy thing where they wanted to try and tax people more who, or tax people less who had their own apartments, for example. Or you could invent whatever thing, but there's a lot of proposals that go around, vacancy taxes, all these things. You can't actually execute on any of these things if you don't know where the rentals are.
Yeah.
So,
But we couldn't act on them anyhow, because we don't have the ordinance or it's governed by the state.
yeah, I'm saying it the other way around.
No.
What,
Good.
I'm saying it the other way around. I'm saying if some political body, whether it's
Yes.
our
Oh, okay.
council or the state or someone else wanted to do any of those political things.
Anything tied to basically an apartment.
Right. In order to enable them to execute on that policy goal,
Yeah.
you need to have the list. So that's how we enable those interventions. We don't approve or authorize or even invent them. We make it possible, or not we, but the city can make it possible if it has the list. Now, as it turns out, currently the way that units are known is in our assessment database, it just says how many units any property has. Doesn't say anything about them really. It says what floor they're on. Each floor, this floor might have 3 units and that floor might have 4 units. But that's what it says. So we know in Patriot, we know how many units a building has, assuming that's correct. But if it's not correct, it doesn't matter. There'll be a process for fixing it and all that. Yeah. Anyway, and the other way you can know is through permits. So if someone permits to add a change of use to add an apartment, well, now you know there's an extra unit there. So the city not only has this information, but what it doesn't have is it doesn't actually know the address for each unit. Our Patriot doesn't know, it just knows there's 3 units on the second floor. It doesn't know that one is 2C and the other is 2D. We don't have that
Yeah,
information.
sometimes I get calls like that, and they're looking for some type of verification. Well, what is this officially? Well, I don't know.
I don't know.
Officially, it's 22 whatever street.
That's right.
And it's
Right.
a family home, you said you wanted to be upper, lower, A, B, whatever you
Don't know.
call it. I don't really have any say.
Right, and I sent you a note and you responded. I was just wondering, are there even fields to allow that in Patriot? Because it's tricky, right? Because it's not just 1 or 2, but it could be in any number of units.
Right.
So there would have to be a separate extensible list, like the same way they have with permits. Where it could be any number of entries. And the closest thing I saw to that is the income expense list.
Yeah, I was thinking that too, or I must have been because we had already talked.
Yes.
But yeah, that's the only spot that it might have something like
And
that.
it doesn't seem to. I mean, I looked in the owner's manual, it doesn't seem to. It has some blank fields in there for different things, again, related to income and expense.
Yeah, and
But
it also might not show everything if it's not the appropriate type of property too.
Yeah. So I mean, we could ask RG or something, or someone from Catalyst.
Yeah, it'd be more someone from Catalyst, I would think.
Yeah, and maybe there's a way to like fake it, like they don't actually have a field that says address of
And
unit.
that would be done by talking to other assessors that have Patriot, you know.
How do they fake it in there? You know, there's a field that says like, you know.
One
don't
thing
know.
that concerns me about that is if you're talking about rentals,
Yeah,
then you gotta update them.
yeah,
But, oh, I was thinking the renter, but you don't care who the renter is, you just
No.
care about the description.
just the address.
Yep.
That's all we need.
Yeah, and speaking of addresses, one of the things that I'm sure Chuck noticed
Yeah.
too, in driving around is, you know, we were looking for many home-based businesses. And there are no, you know, there's no signage, there's nothing
Yeah,
that says this is 324 Maple Street.
Yeah, you can't even tell sometimes which unit is which. I mean, but that's at the highest level. What we do know is we know how many units are in a parcel. What we don't know is what their address is. Maybe it's possible to shoehorn that into Catalyst and have Catalyst be the place that keeps it, but maybe not. And it might not even be the right thing to do. So I'll get to that in a second, but the next point I want to make is just how else could you find out that there are units? Well, you could simply, yeah, you could, the census, which is what, I'll talk about that in a second. But also just by asking, like in the surveys that RRG sent out, hey, how many units are in your parcel? Tips is another way. Hey, like we've seen some of our tips. Hey, they've added an apartment here. There are many towns in Massachusetts that are doing this. Many. These listed here are just an example where I actually found the relevant either ordinances or websites that tell people how to do it. I have some examples in the following slides, which I won't go into.
well, I know the assessors in the first line of every town.
Yeah,
Every town on
there's
the first line.
South Hadley, Lawrence,
Yeah, Southampton,
Boston.
Worcester.
Yeah, and then I have all these links to all these other towns. These are links to the parts of their website that show what the rental registration scheme is for that town.
Pittsfield, our DOR rep, Paula King, is the former chairman of the board of Pittsfield and left that position after 15 years maybe to join the DOR. So she could be a resource to
Yeah,
help
maybe.
us or ask questions too about.
And maybe she has some ideas
some
about
input
how
or
you do a
exactly,
census.
Well, anyway,
And how they put it together.
so just getting through that, these different towns don't all do it the same. So there are a variety of differences. Some exempt owner occupied homes, like up to 3 family. So if it's a 2 or 3 family and the owner lives in the parcel, they don't have to do the registry for any of the units.
Mhm.
So some towns do it that way. Some do it, any home with 3 or less units doesn't have to do it.
Okay.
Some
Have to register.
Yeah,
doesn't have to register.
probably because it's not considered a commercial or yeah.
It seems like it's honestly,
residential and commercial.
these are like policy, this is a policy thing. I wouldn't look for any real rationale. It's just the council of that town decided, hey, we don't need to, you know, whatever vacancy tax or inspect or whatever these kind of, it's a political decision as far as I'm concerned. And another example, some of them, even if a unit does not collect rent, you have to register it. Some of it only units collecting rent. So there's a lot of differences in how it could be done against like a political
Mhm.
question. Obviously, functions like ours or similar functions could make estimates on how much revenue it might bring in or something like that. These registries are typically not run by assessors. They're typically run by health departments. There are other examples, like the building departments in some towns run it. But it could be run by any department. And so really the question is, and I'll get to that in a second, like what's the best way? But you asked about the census stuff. So our friend Bob Wilford So he suggests that, and he actually had done a public records request, and he had a census listing for Greenfield. And then Jim here filtered it out to figure out which ones were at the same address. And then I matched that to our 2024 counter report, looking for cases where it was single family, and yet there were more than one apartment address. Yeah, and I didn't find that. It did find like 20, but I checked each one and there were various reasons, either artifacts of the formula or this or that. There were some homes where there was a couple living at the home and they were in their apartment was apartment 2 or apartment B. There were no other apartments in the home. There were no other people living there. So that to me was not a problem. So just anyways, census information is a useful way of doing that. But the overall thing is this thing I have in the bubble up there. This is what we were talking about before. And that's why I think this is interesting to us. This is all about integration between departments. We were talking about the seemingly all meeting today. The building department has this, the census clerk has this, the census has that. The first responders have this other thing. Everyone's got their own list. And not only that, but in each list, parcels are identified differently. So the addresses don't match. Again, some have extra spaces or periods or different abbreviations or whatever. They're all because like I'm assuming someone comes in for a permit, they have a form, paper form they filled out, and they give it and they type it in and they just type in whatever address is written there. And that's not the same as the official address we have. So this leads to mix-ups. It leads to mix-ups. It leads to complexity for owners where they have to come in and fill out, it's seemingly the same information at department after department after department. They say, I already told you guys about this, this, and this. Oh, no, you told that department, you didn't tell us. Right?
Yeah.
So it's owners, it bogs them down. Of course, it bogs us down and it prevents us from doing things we want to do, as we talked about earlier. And these mix-ups happen, which for an owner can be bad when they thought they did something and they didn't. But for us, it can be really bad because we don't find these apartments or we don't find the new permit or we don't find this or that. So how to fix that? We brainstormed a lot of ways of how to fix it without money. I mean, obviously we could spend money and try and make software IT solutions, but those can be very expensive and generally don't work very well anyway, and everybody's resistant to them. Or it could just be a people process thing. Like there's some shared spreadsheet that has all the addresses, and if you're coming into the form somewhere, the clerk just looks it up in the system. Oh, this is the address. Here's the parcel. I think we decided in this subcommittee, we don't know enough to recommend exactly what's the best thing to do here, but Susan said, and this is kind of the point I've been building to and why this is informative for this group. Susan said she was going to use one of her sessions with Ginny to talk about this problem and to see if Ginny wanted to survey the department heads on what did they think, which department thought they would be the best one to own the info, which departments would be happy to use the info from other departments. How can we all use the same address? And then also the stuff you're talking about, well, if we are all using the same address, what's the most efficient way to get this information about the first responders to the assessor's office? Like, is there some nice spreadsheet,
Yeah, it's more of us coordinating with them to, and the building department. But yeah, I hear what you're saying, and integration with processes.
Yeah, and so just throwing it out there, let's see what the department heads themselves think that makes sense for them.
So we have, I'm just thinking of the overlay, right? And it's a shared spreadsheet. And it's in a Google Drive. And so we access it and Angelica accesses it. So this department could access it and that department could access it and all update it. But if it's in the drive, then we'd all be able to, hopefully maintain it or take some responsibility for it.
And you're all grown up, so we don't need complicated security arrangements or forms you're all grown up, so it can just be a shared spreadsheet.
Well, if you're signed on to the system, you're signed on to the system
Oh,
and
yeah.
have access to whatever it is.
Yes, anyway, so that's what the rental registry stuff is about, and where it is right now is that Susan's gonna talk to Ginny about it, and Ginny's gonna flow that down, presumably to the department's head and say, hey, what do y'all think we should do here to improve things?
You know, talking about street addresses, in doing the business census, you know, there were streets that straddled multiple precincts.
Yeah, there were, yeah.
And I squared away a lot of them. But I think an official street address precinct database is very useful.
Yeah, and who knows, maybe Eric will say, oh, that should be us, you know?
Yeah.
Or maybe someone from RRG tells you, oh, yeah, there's a spot in there for units.
Well, that's part of it we already did. We created that street address by precinct.
Yeah.
Well, we hacked it together.
Yeah,
We're definitely not the source of that.
I think, yeah, where it comes in is, you know, sometimes it's the precinct boundary is right down the middle of the road.
Yeah.
So the evens up to a certain point,
Yeah,
and, you know, it's that sort of stuff.
I
So,
mean, we did our best, but there were definitely things we couldn't do because there were no businesses at certain places.
right.
okay, but prior to that, we did the precinct list.
That's what I mean in that.
Yeah, okay.
That was not at all perfect because we built that off of a list of stuff, like businesses or whatever that had addresses or
No, it was information I got from the clerks.
yeah, and
So it was every street that they had, and then
Right.
but the numbers weren't inclusive of all the numbers on that street. So
because of the
Because of the-
borderline property, so the odd side of the street is in this street, and the even side of the street is in another precinct.
but there were parts of the street which were not on the list at all.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, so you don't know which precinct they're in. You go well, a lot of times we go to the map and try to infer what precinct that number is in. The number wasn't in the list because it wasn't one of those.
You know, I mean, there's the precinct list, you know, to the left there.
Yeah.
And I loaded that, and what I did is I looked at, you know, where's this property? And then I went over to the GIS
Yeah,
and found
Yeah.
the parcel.
Yeah.
And then by looking at the numbers, you say, oh, it's even up to,
yeah.
you know, that sort of thing. So it was a manual process, but I think, first of all, most streets and most addresses are in one precinct.
Yeah.
So all we need to do is sort of crawl the boundaries. And I think, you know, I mean, I've started that, and
But to your point though, and this is what I think is relevant. That stuff should come from the source of precinct boundaries, not from us.
I agree with you. But I think when the precinct boundaries are set, then that needs to take into account the addresses, and, you know, vice versa, when you're looking up an address and you need a precinct, you'd like to make sure that precinct number assignment was correct.
Yeah, so this is just illustrative of, again, the general problem of having information flow through the town from the source of record down to everyone who needs it. In this case, precinct stuff, we're not the source of record, we're just someone who needs it.
Right.
Okay, so again, our grassroots community of friends is not going to solve this. We just raised it up as there's a great opportunity for efficiencies and improvements for owners as well as the city. And that's just what this is talking about.
Okay.
So that was that item.
Yep.
And then I had one other item that I was assigned last time that I wanted to show you the progress I made. You might have forgot because it was kind of small. It's the council relations.
Oh, yeah.
And
This was expanding the exemption qualification.
yeah, or just seeing what we have and what we could do. So I'm not sure, this is to the best of the information I could find. So this includes the information that Devin, you in the office gave me. So The first one is this 17 stuff. So you guys said we currently have 17E, which uses the COLA adjustment. There is a 17F, which
Increases the amount as well as
Yeah.
the state limit.
yes. And it's an amount which is at the council's option. So this is again, a political decision. So maybe the mayor's office might want to make a recommendation and then the council can decide what they want to do and blah, blah, blah. I'm just pointing out here that this is an opportunity. So if we wanted to give more surviving spouse, minor and senior, there is an option to do 17F. And then here's some town, Kingston.
F because it's going to increase the benefit amount.
Yeah, yeah. It's an option that if politically, if the administration and council wanted to do, they could.
And how many other exemptions is that available for? There's another letter and we can increase the award amount,
I have like 5 here. There's not too many opportunities.
including veterans though?
Yeah, I went through all of them. But this 17, it has this F, and here's an example from the town of Kingston of why they decided it was a good idea to do it. Just in case you guys have any interest. So for example, they currently exempt $346 instead of $175. And honestly, I thought and this is for us to decide, I thought we should recommend we do this because there are not very many 17s in town. Correct me if I'm wrong. It's not like 1,000 of them. It's like less than 100, right?
Oh, yeah.
So
There's,
So changing and adding an extra 100 or $2 for whatever 20 or 50 people in town is not a huge amount coming out of the budget, but might politically be something that is desirable.
And I brought it up originally and I was trying to encourage this and it's great that you took the time to, figure it all out. Because I think it should be happening to all of the ones, and that was my conversation with the veteran at the counter, oh yeah, I get $400. Big deal.
Right.
$400 now, well, because it was $400 in 2012 too. And it was $400, okay, it's been $400 for the longest time. It's not much of a benefit now, and it should maybe increase like these others.
I think with respect to this, the timing of it is going to be up to Jenny.
Yeah.
It's something we'd have to adopt for the next fiscal year, so we'd have to get it going prior, and that's why I was,
No, I think that this is great. And all I was suggesting is now, we basically hand it off.
Yes.
And we say, Jenny, we have this stuff, and whenever you want to do it.
and the only other thing I can think of is, what about our reimbursement from the state? If we increase it, does our reimbursement stay? Or
So
does that increase?
That's what I thought we could do is in addition to just pointing out these are the opportunities, we could provide a budget estimate. This is how it's going to hit us. And so help them make the decision.
Yeah.
So I don't know how much the state,
If they,
I don't know.
and, somewhere I'm sure in the language or you go through, hopefully it mentions how that's handled, because we get X amount of reimbursement for the different exemptions that we grant.
yeah,
And so if we're gonna increase that amount and yet our reimbursement's not gonna increase, well, we at least need to know that. Like you're saying, to forecast budget wise, okay, well, this is what we're gonna have to do. This is what we're proposing. It's gonna help more people, but we're gonna have to do it on our own as opposed to the state,
exactly.
as opposed to a state match or something like that.
Is this, I realize that, we can propose this, but
Right.
but who do we propose it to?
Yeah.
Council.
So
Is it the council
That-
or do we just say, this is our recommendation and we say
So-
D? You.
that's why I called this council relations.
Yeah.
So what I might suggest or offer is that first off, I'm looking mainly to you, Randy, because of your background. Maybe you can check with Harold, but to actually figure out how to estimate how badly these things will hit us. dollar wise.
Mhm.
Like you said, looking at the language of the ordinance, or not the ordinance, the state law, the chapter. But also, I just don't know how to figure, I don't know how many 17s there are, for
Yeah,
example.
we've
We
got,
don't have that many at all.
yeah, we don't have a ton. We've got a whole spreadsheet. It's all in spreadsheet.
We even
But you're also proposing other ones.
Well, I don't know how much the COLAs are either. But
Another question, I'm thinking, okay, well, their amount's 346. The state's amount's 175. If we adopt it, will it go retroactive from a certain point? From when we adopted
these things
originally?
don't go
Oh,
retroactive.
yeah, so it'd just be, okay, we start it now, and now the cost of living starts kicking in on that 175 next year. It's gonna be, 192.
Yeah.
And then, or whatever.
Anyway, so the first thing would be that I think we can develop what would be the impact? This was what you said last time, Jim. You said we can develop what would be the impact for each of these. And then I thought the right thing to do would be to boil this up to Ginny, maybe through D, but boil it up through our chain of command. Just like in the federal government, right, or the state government. So if a state agency thinks they want to do something, or a federal agency, they go up through their own administration, and then Biden and his buddies decide, oh, this is a good thing. And then they go to Congress and they say, the White House wants Congress to do X.
Yeah.
So we can do it that
Congress,
way.
It gives them the Boston way.
Whatever, but I'm just, as a process thing, so I thought it might be friendliest or most teamworky for us to do it that way.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I think let's say this is something that we feel is needed. We've done the research,
I wouldn't even say that we feel it's needed. We say, we understand from you that the administration's priorities are to help seniors.
Yeah.
And so this is a way you could do it better, and here's our estimates of what it would cost.
Okay.
So that's the 17. Then there's the 18, which I know you're closely familiar with. The only option there is we could reduce the interest rate
Mhm.
if we wanted to. Veteran, we could reduce the residency requirement in F. What's that?
I was just thinking, I mean, what you have here are areas what we can do. And now all we need to do is to propose what we think we should do. And that involves understanding the impact.
Yeah, and even on should, honestly, I'm just putting yes to all these.
Okay.
Just because that's our understanding of the policy, but I don't know what the whole city budget is. So let's let Dee and Ginny decide.
Yeah, but I think, in order to for Randy to feed that information to them.
Yeah.
We need to have a straw man recommendation.
Yeah, that's why I just said yes to all these.
Yeah, but now we have to figure out what the impact is.
Yeah.
Do we know how many people we have in each of the?
Yeah, there's some 10 that we granted.
Yeah, but I mean, when we start talking about, 41, 37,
I
20.
get there.
No, I'm just saying, do we
Okay.
have those counts?
We keep a running tally of who we've
Okay.
granted, yeah,
Okay,
yes, and we report at the end of April, I think.
so,
So we'll have a final count.
Yeah.
so we have the numbers, and it's just the numbers, whatever they are, times our proposed increase.
Yeah, well, some of these have options, other of them are just yes, no.
Okay, well.
Yeah, so
I
it's
mean,
easier to estimate.
So I just want to interject that we're spending a lot of time and we haven't got to abatements.
I know,
That's.
I'm about
Maybe
done.
we should have, a separate meeting for abatements.
It's fine with me.
Not be a bad-
Because I like all the stuff that we're doing,
Yeah.
but we have to get through this stuff too.
Yeah,
So,
so I'm just
How
about done.
about, go ahead, Chuck.
I just want to say, so there's a couple others on veterans. Again, some of them don't even cost money. Allows exemption when the title is held by a trustee.
reduce the requirement from 5 years to 1.
Yeah. For the blind, you can increase it to $500. I'm not sure if we already do that.
That's what we have, 500.
Do we already have this one?
Yeah, I think so.
All right, I'm gonna blow it away then.
Yeah, because it used to be like 437.50 or something like that.
Okay, and then the 41, of course,
Yeah,
the
we
big
could
one.
increase to the 65.
So right now we're 67. You go to 65. We could go do the C&1/2 thing. C&1/2 though requires voter approval. So that's a really different political
Yes, that would
decision.
be
That's a whole thing. And then there's the senior, do we already have the senior circuit breaker?
The senior circuit breaker has nothing to do with us. It's, you know,
Well-
we provide some information, but it's really,
But
it's something that's out there. That was part of that awareness campaign that we did. And they have people at the senior center or the design center here to help people with the circuit breaker.
so we don't have an option there.
But yeah, I don't know. I don't know enough about it because it's really not an assessor's office thing.
Well, I got the circuit breaker income limits from the statute, I believe.
Yeah, we have a document downstairs that we can copy and give out about the senior circuit breaker. But it's really, it has to do with your taxes.
Yeah,
Not taxes in the capacity that the assessor's office.
Right.
Has the taxes.
yeah. Well, some of these other things though do use the senior circuit breaker calculations. So that's good to know, but I'll just delete this. It sounds like not us. And then this voluntary aid, we've talked about that before, the voluntary fund. So those are the options.
Mhm.
It's not too many.
And I'm not seeing an increase in the amounts for veteran wise.
That's not option. That's not an option we have.
And that's, you know,
So that's just what I was doing, is taking what we have,
Yeah.
what the state allows.
some little disappointed. Because I think, I had, I think of more than one veteran saying that same thing to me, that it's good for disability, but it's $400 off and I just raised his dark bill by, $13. So,
But I just want to share, so I did this.
yeah.
So we're,
This is great because it was something I wanted to do, but just didn't have the time to do.
exactly, that's what we're doing. That's what we're doing here. All right, so speaking of time, so that was the last thing that I thought I needed to cover.
Okay,
Thank you, Chuck. That's great.
Mhm.
and with respect to the exemptions, I think you're right that we probably ought to have a meeting that is devoted to that.
Abatements, you mean?
Abatements, yeah, sorry, abatements.
Yeah,
Just add,
just burn through them.
it's time of year, that's all,
Yeah, love it.
Okay, and is there any benefit in, we have 20 minutes left, is there any benefit in passing those around so we can skim them? Or should we just adjourn?
I would like to go, we've got
I'm
one.
sorry, we've got
exemption.
exemptions, right.
Oh, yeah, and the tip line has 33 items in it, FYI.
Ooh,
Oh,
okay.
Tip line update of the day.
More to come. These items, I added because I've been fed information by Jenny over the years and
Mhm.
just catching up with it now.
No, I think this is all great. All of the different things that we're discussing about the office here and, we're making progress too. So,
Burning down.
yeah, I don't want to discourage this, but at the same time,
Let's do them.
No.
get through these. And I thought about it at the last one, we sort of did the same thing.
Yeah.
We talked a lot about the goings on of the office. And, then we kind of, I don't want to burn through these and not give them the time that they, deserve.
Should we consider, when we're in abatement season, should we consider having having executive session first, covering these things, and then the rest of the meeting is as time?
you can do that.
I suppose we could do things, and it's usually you do your executive session after
Yeah, no, I understand.
other things.
I like the idea of an abatement only meeting, because then there's
Yeah, I
no
mean,
public
I think
input at all.
another meeting where we're not really gonna talk about all the goings on at the office and that we're
Just
having
abatements.
specifically for the
Yeah.
abatements, because when we get into the abatements too, and I want to do this, we're talking about the different things, and you guys are learning, especially you, Chuck, you know what I mean, as we're going through
Yep.
all these different circumstances, and I don't want to just blow through that and be like, oh, well, you can learn it next year or something like that. No, I think it's valuable, but maybe we just, need another meeting so that we can give them the time that we need and also give the rest of the things the time that and attention that they deserve.
That makes sense.
You propose, I'll accept.
Yeah, I propose we have, let's figure out.
And that's what the
When?
website says too. It says we have meetings on Tuesday and then as needed, once a month,
Okay.
so we have the meetings once a month and then as needed. And so it's just, right now it's a busier time. And especially with the new members, we're, we want to take the time or explain and go over, abatement wise.
You want to do one on the 26th?
I actually have one in my calendar on the 26th.
Okay.
It's the old.
And also, we're getting closer and closer to April. So we're getting closer to, okay, we have 90 days to act. And if they applied on January 1st, and I think that we've worked them to a certain extent where it's not an issue, but we could get to that point. So,
So we better do it next week. at the
Would you
latest.
mind, could we start at 10:30 on the 26th instead of 9:30?
and we could, if it's not like our, I think it's important to have a regular scheduled meeting like we're doing right now.
Mhm.
It's on a Tuesday and it's at that 9:30, but actually, even because this is our second meeting this month too. So we're kind of a little beyond that. So any other meetings that we have, we could say that they're going to be for a specific thing and even let the public know that,
Yeah.
yes, we're having a meeting here, but it's going to be devoted to abatements and much of it'll be an executive session. So Stephanie, you know what I mean? If the public is going to come in, you might not want to, worry about scheduling your time so that you can be able to stay there for the whole meeting, knowing that, okay, it's really for the assessor's office to address these particular situations that are going on right
Can you
now.
guys do 10:30 to noon on next Tuesday, the 26th? For abatements?
Sure. I mean, I'm.
It doesn't have to be a Tuesday,
Just,
but yeah, I have that open.
all right. That would work for me.
All right.
In future Tuesdays, I'll be able to do it at 9:30. I just happen to have something, that's all.
Well, the other thing is, do we need the full board
To do abatements?
to do abatement?
It's just the three of them. so-
I know it is, but if you're
Yes,
not
it could
here.
be just two,
Could be the
yeah,
two.
if that was the case.
Okay, you can start without me. That's fine.
Yeah, and we can bring you up to speed.
No, and as it's not a regular scheduled meeting, it's not an issue if we start a little later. I think.
It's
And as long as everyone can make it.
Whatever you,
And I'm just
are we
gonna,
doing 10:30?
When are we doing? Up to you guys.
Can you guys do 10:30 to noon next Tuesday, the 26th?
Done.
Okay,
All right,
26, 10:30 to noon.
all right. So you can do a lot of abatements then.
whatever we have. I know that we've got, a ton and David's trying to get as many as he can. I'm working on, the ones for the condos of however many I've taken over, whatever, 26 or however many of them. So I'm trying to get those prepared and before the board as soon as possible so that we can,
Can I move to close public comment?
Yeah. I
so I'll
was just,
second then, or,
yeah, no, I was just gonna make a comment that our executive session minutes will do an executive session when we meet next.
Yes.
Okay, but yeah, close public comment.
I move.
okay, and I'll second.
Okay.
All in favor? Aye.
Then
I move to go into executive session to talk about abatements.
And we do that, let's do that at the next meeting.
You don't want to do any abatements today.
Do we have time to?
Yeah, it's only quarter after
All
11.
right, sure, let's
Do
do
some
it.
work, man.
Get through some.
I move we go into executive session.
Okay,
Okay, I will second.
yeah, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay,
Okay.
great. And we went in at the 11:17.
So Stephanie, we're gonna go into an executive session.
Good seeing
Okay, I
you.
will
shutting off our
I will
video
log
and
out. Thank
audio.
you for allowing me to speak today.
Oh, once.
Well, come on, you're always welcome.
Yeah. Come in person sometime.
Hmm.
Maybe I'll bring donuts.
Oh.
Okay,
Thank you.
see you later.
Bye-bye.
We're breaking the